A prominent CEO launches a public search for a new wife from among 5 elite women. But when he discovers his daughter's secret protector is the housekeeper, he chooses her instead, revealing a truth far more valuable than wealth. "This woman shouldn't even be in the same room as us," Genevieve Ashworth whispered to the other candidates as she watched Naomi Carter silently clean up crystal shards on the marble floor of the prestigious Blackwood mansion. The glass had been accidentally knocked over during lunch by the 5 socialites competing to become the new wife of widowed millionaire Ethan Blackwood. Naomi, 28, had been working at the imposing Atlanta mansion for only 3 months, but she had already completely transformed the life of 7-year-old Lila, who had lost her mother in a car accident the previous year. What the candidates didn't know was that every cruel word, every look of contempt, every attempt at humiliation was being carefully observed by someone who kept secrets far deeper than they could imagine. "Daddy, why are those women being mean to Naomi?" Lila asked that morning. Hiding behind Ethan's office door, his daughter's innocent question echoed in the businessman's mind as he watched through the security cameras. Naomi was being humiliated by the 5 candidates who had arrived 2 weeks earlier to participate in his marriage competition. The idea had come from his therapist: allow Lila to live with different women for a month and choose who she would like to be her new mother. Ethan had carefully selected 5 women from high society: a lawyer, a doctor, a businesswoman, a socialite, and an architect. All seemingly perfect on paper. But from day one, something disturbing began to happen. The 5 women, led by the cruel Genevieve Ashworth, heiress to an oil fortune, had declared a silent war on Naomi. Not because she was a threat, after all, she was just the housekeeper, but because Lila clearly preferred spending time with her than with any of the candidates. "That girl needs to learn about social hierarchy early on," declared Beatrice Montgomery, the lawyer, during a dinner party they thought they were attending alone. "It's important that she understands who the appropriate people are for her social class." What they didn't know was that Ethan had installed microphones throughout the house after noticing strange changes in Lila's behavior. The girl, who was finally starting to smile again, had returned to having nightmares and anxiety attacks. Naomi, who had a degree in education but was working as a cleaner to support her sick mother, never imagined that her natural kindness toward Lila would trigger such cruelty. Every morning while preparing breakfast, she heard poisonous comments about people who don't know their place and inappropriate influences for children from good families. But there was something none of the 5 candidates noticed. In Naomi's eyes shone a quiet determination forged by years of facing prejudices far worse than these. And when she bowed her head in the face of insults, it was not in submission, it was a pure strategy from someone who had learned that the best revenge comes to those who know how to wait for the right moment. The next morning, Genevieve gathered the other 4 candidates in the mansion's private library, far from the eyes and ears they imagined were watching them. The plan being hatched was as cruel as it was meticulously calculated. "We need to be strategic about the situation," Genevieve said, adjusting her diamond earrings as she watched Naomi through the window playing hopscotch with Lila in the garden. "That woman is influencing the child in a way that is inappropriate for our social class." Beatrice Montgomery, the corporate lawyer, opened her Italian leather address book. "I've checked the legal procedures. Ethan can fire any employee for cultural incompatibility without any labor issues." "Cultural incompatibility is a fancy euphemism," laughed Olivia Hawthorne, the dermatologist who exclusively served Atlanta's elite. "The problem is more obvious than that." Danielle Sterling, the architect who had designed mansions for 3 governors, shook her head in disdain. "Lila needs to learn early on about appropriate associations. This proximity to the help is creating unrealistic expectations about social relationships." Camilla Chase, heiress to a chain of luxury hotels, was more direct. "Let's stop beating around the bush. The problem is that a black cleaning lady is taking up emotional space that should be ours. Lila should be clinging to one of us, not her." What none of them knew was that Naomi had grown up hearing conversations just like this one. The daughter of a housekeeper who had worked for wealthy families for 30 years, she knew every code, every euphemism, every strategy that privileged people used to justify their cruelty. At 14, Naomi had witnessed her mother being fired after 20 years of impeccable service simply because her employer's son had become too close to her. The veiled accusation of not knowing her place had echoed through the halls of that Charleston mansion. And now, 14 years later, the same poisonous whispers were resurfacing in Atlanta. But there was something these women couldn't see behind Naomi's apparent humility. Her education at Clark Atlanta University had not been just a degree. It had been a silent declaration of war against the system that had tried to break her family. That night, Ethan watched discreetly through the cameras as the candidates carried out their most cruel sabotage yet. They had hidden Lila's favorite teddy bear, a gift from her late mother, and then discovered the toy in Naomi's closet. "Lila, honey, we found your teddy bear," Genevieve announced dramatically, pulling the toy out of the closet as Lila cried desperately. It was in the employee's room. "Naomi, why did you take my teddy bear?" Lila asked, confused and hurt. "I didn't take it, sweetie," Naomi replied calmly. But Ethan could see the pain in her eyes through the camera. "Someone must have put him there by mistake." "Mistake," said Beatrice, feigning disbelief. "Lila, did you leave your teddy bear in the employee's room?" "No," whispered Lila, tears streaming down her face. "I always leave him on my bed." Olivia approached and knelt down to the child's height. "Honey, sometimes people, different people, take things that aren't theirs. It's not necessarily out of malice, but out of envy or a desire to have nice things." It was at that moment that Ethan saw something extraordinary happen. Instead of desperately defending herself, Naomi simply hugged Lila and whispered, "My little one, you know in your heart that I would never take anything of yours. And people who truly love you would never try to confuse that heart." The mature wisdom and unshakable dignity of that response contrasted brutally with the calculated cruelty of the 5 women. Ethan realized he was witnessing not just racial discrimination, but a systematic attempt to psychologically destroy both his employee and his own daughter. That night, while the candidates secretly celebrated what they considered their definitive victory, Naomi received a call from her sister Zuri that would completely change the game. "Sister, you won't believe what I found out about your new friends. And best of all, it's all publicly documented. They're much more vulnerable than they realize." Across the mansion, Ethan made a decision that would seal the fate of the 5 women. He had seen enough, gathered enough evidence, and come to a conclusion that left him both furious and determined. It was time to stop watching passively and start taking action. Climax. The following Friday, Ethan called a special meeting. He had discreetly invited Dr. Angela Morrison, Zuri Williams-Johnson from CNN, and investigator Liam Thompson. The 5 candidates showed up, thinking they would finally receive the decision on who would be chosen. "Ladies, before I announce my decision, I would like to share some interesting findings," Ethan said, turning on the screen in the room. Genevieve smiled confidently. "Sure, Ethan. We're eager to hear them." The first image that appeared was a news article, "Heiress diverts charity funds." Genevieve's photo was splashed across the headline. "That's a lie!" Genevieve yelled, her face turning red. "Is it?" asked Zuri, standing up. "I'm Zuri Williams-Johnson, CNN. I confirm every word of this report." Ethan clicked to the next slide. Beatrice Montgomery appeared, being sued for racial discrimination against 3 black employees. "Ethan, this is out of context," Beatrice tried nervously. "Context," interrupted Liam Thompson. "I'm a private investigator. All of these documents are public and verified." The next images devastated Olivia, Danielle, and Camilla one by one. Lawsuits for medical malpractice, tax evasion, hostile work environment. "You are all systemic predators," Ethan said coldly. "And I have documented every attack you have made against Naomi." He played the recordings. The voices of the 5 women echoed through the room, racist comments, plans for sabotage, the setup with Lila's teddy bear. "This is invasion of privacy." Genevieve yelled, "In my own home." Ethan laughed bitterly. "Where you plotted to destroy an innocent person?" Dr. Morrison approached. "As a child development expert, I evaluated Lila this week. The child demonstrates healthy restorative bonds with Naomi, which are essential to her post-traumatic development." Lila, who had been called into the room, ran straight to Naomi. "Naomi, you're not leaving, are you?" "No, sweetheart," Naomi said calmly, hugging the girl. Ethan looked directly at the 5 women. Naomi Carter has a degree in education from Clark Atlanta University, 3 specializations in child development, and impeccable references. You assumed she was just a cleaning lady because she's black. Genevieve tried one last card. "Ethan, you're making a terrible mistake. Think of the social standing, the future of Lila." "I am thinking," Ethan interrupted. "Naomi, will you marry me?" The silence was deafening. Naomi looked at Lila, then at Ethan. "I will." Lila screamed with joy. "Now Naomi will be my real mom." The 5 candidates were in total shock. Genevieve was as pale as a sheet. "Impossible," Olivia whispered. "You're going to marry the maid." "I'm marrying the most honest woman I know," Ethan replied. "The woman who cared for my daughter with true love while you plotted to destroy her out of pure prejudice." Zuri was filming everything. This story will be on the air Monday. Racist socialites exposed, the fall of 5 elite predators. Their reputations, careers, and social circles are destroyed, Liam added. All documented and irrefutable. Genevieve tried to leave, but Ethan stopped her. "Oh, one last thing. I'm suing all of you for conspiracy, slander, and attempted destruction of character. My lawyers are already on it. The five left the mansion humiliated, photographed by the journalists Zuri had called. Their cell phones were already ringing with angry calls from clients, friends, and family who had seen the first news stories leaking on social media. Naomi remained standing, dignified and serene, holding Lila in her arms. "Thank you for believing in me," she said to Ethan. "Thank you for showing me what really matters," he replied, kissing her gently. While the former contestants faced the total collapse of their privileged lives, a new family was born, built on true love, mutual respect, and the ultimate victory of dignity over prejudice, proving that sometimes the greatest revenge is simply to live well while those who tried to destroy you watch their own masks fall publicly, revealing to the whole world who they really always were behind all that false sophistication. 2 years later, Zuri's article had become a case study on racial discrimination in journalism schools across the country. The 5 women faced devastating and permanent consequences. Genevieve Ashworth lost her family inheritance when the board discovered her charitable embezzlement. Today, she works as a sales clerk in a department store, constantly recognized by customers who saw the story. Beatrice Montgomery was fired from her law firm and had her license suspended. Danielle Sterling went bankrupt after losing all her architectural clients. Olivia Hawthorne moved to another state after her clinic closed. Camilla Chase sold her hotels to pay workers' compensation claims. Meanwhile, Naomi prospered in an extraordinary way. Ethan had insisted that she finish her master's degree in special education, and now she ran a foundation that offered scholarships to underprivileged children to study music and the arts. "Mom, Naomi, look what I learned on the piano today," Lila shouted, running home after class. At 9, she had mastered 3 instruments and spoke fluent Portuguese after lessons with Naomi's grandmother, who had moved into the mansion. The family had grown. 6-month-old Ethan Jr. slept peacefully in Naomi's arms as she organized documents for the foundation named after Lila. "Honey, another thank you letter," Ethan said, handing her the envelope. "This time it's from a mother in Detroit whose son got a full scholarship to study violin." Naomi smiled, remembering the conversation she had had with Lila. The week before, the girl had asked why the mean girls had tried to send her away. "Sweetie, some people are born with everything and think that makes them better than others. But you know what the secret is?" Naomi had replied, "People like that always destroy themselves because kindness and cruelty cannot live in the same heart." During an interview on the country's most watched morning show, Ethan was asked about his controversial decision to marry Naomi. "Controversial?" He laughed. "I married a woman who is educated, intelligent, saved my daughter from depression, and taught me the true meaning of family. If that's controversial, then the problem isn't with me." The host pressed on, "But what about the social differences?" "What differences?" Ethan replied, looking directly at the camera. "My wife has a master's degree, runs a foundation that has benefited 1,000 children, speaks 3 languages, and raises my children with more love and wisdom than any socialite could ever dream of having." Naomi watched from home, Lila on her lap, smiling proudly at the man who had chosen to love her exactly as she was. At Lila's school, other children constantly asked about her famous mother. "She's the bravest woman in the world," Lila would reply proudly. "And she makes the best chocolate cake, too." Naomi's true revenge had not been to destroy her attackers. It had been to live so well that her happiness became living proof that people like Genevieve were fundamentally wrong about human worth. That Sunday morning, as she watched Ethan playing with her children in the garden, where she had once been humiliated, Naomi reflected on how life had changed. It wasn't just that she had won. It was that she had turned her victory into something greater than herself. "Love," Ethan called from the garden. "Come here. Lila wants to show you the song she wrote for you." Naomi walked toward the family she had built, knowing that sometimes the greatest revenge against prejudice is not to strike back with anger, but to respond with so much love and success that you completely rewrite the rules of the game.